أبي عبد الله النعمان بن بشير رضي الله عنهما قال: سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول: إن الحلال بين وإن الحرام بين وبينهما أمور مشتبهات لا يعلمهن كثير من الناس، فمن اتقى الشبهات فقد استبرأ لدينه وعرضه، ومن وقع في الشبهات وقع في الحرام، كالراعي يرعى حول الحمى يوشك أن يرتع فيه، ألا وإن لكل ملك حمى، ألا وإن حمى الله محارمه، ألا وإن في الجسد مضغة إذا صلحت صلح الجسد كله، وإذا فسدت فسد الجسد كله، ألا وهي القلب.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. As you just heard and you were able to read the translation of the hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, before I get started, there's something that I want to point out about this assembly and what we're doing here today. I have to give a lot of respect and acknowledgement to the brothers at Abu Huraira for coming up with this idea of going over some of the hadith of Al-Imam An-Nawawi's 40 hadith rahimahullah ta'ala. We're living in a day and a time right now where it's fashionable and it's acceptable in these types of conferences to come and to go, and it's just party time. It's just an issue of wasting time and really not going away with anything that's beneficial, gimmicks and other than that. Many of the brothers who are here, who are attending that I know, I get that question over and over again. I want to be a student, I want to be serious, so what should I start off with? This book of 40 hadith, everybody here, this book of 40 hadith is one of the primary books that have been written in Al-Islam. If you want to amount to something in terms of knowing your religion, having a basic foundation in your religion, then this is the book to start with. If you don't memorize the Quran, but you understood this hadith will give you a lot of information and practical knowledge that will allow you to navigate in your Islam in a way that inshallah is going to be acceptable to and by Allah Azza wa Jal. I don't know if the previous speakers have mentioned this, but I have to bring it to the table because it's one of the treasures from Al-Imam An-Nawawi's book, because I have a lot to mention here in only 40 minutes inshallah. But I think it's worth the time to divert a little bit because it's all connected. The hadith in the 40 hadith of Al-Imam An-Nawawi, they are a specific type of hadith. They're what the Prophet called sallallahu alaihi wasallam in an authentic hadith, U'titu jawami al-kalam. I have been given the ability to have al-jawami al-kalam. That was the ability that he had to say a few words, but they had far-reaching implications. There were a lot of benefits in his words. There were a lot of ahkam, rules, regulations. When the man came and the Nabi told him, La taghdab, don't become angry, that's just 2 words. But if a person were to comprehend those 2 words and he was to practice those 2 words, it's going to bring a tremendous amount of benefit. So all of the hadith in his book, they're from this Jawami al-Kalim. So the great scholar, his name is Al-Imam Ibn Salah, Abu Amr Ibn Salah, from the ulama of al-Hadith. He was the first one to come concerning these 40 hadith, and he presented and he gathered 28 hadith. 28. Al-Imam An-Nawawi came after him. An-Nawawi added to his 28, 14. Only from the Jawami al-Kalim. After An-Nawawi added his 14, it made it 42. So An-Nawawi's book, 40 hadith, is really 42 hadith. 42. And he said 40 hadith taghliban. After Imam al-Nawawi came another tremendous scholar, Al-Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. He added 8 to Al-Imam al-Nawawi's 42, making 50. Now, the people who speak English here, you have to get that book that Ibn Rajab wrote. It's called Jami' al-Ulum wal-Hikam, and it's been translated into English. It's 3 volumes. It was translated by one of the pioneers of the Dawah of Salafiyah from America. His name is Jamal Zaragoza, a Spanish revert brother. That book is in English. If you were to get that book and you were to be patient in reading that book, hadith after hadith, from page to page, as I mentioned, inshallah, you are going to come out with a good comprehension of this religion. So those 50 hadith that have been gathered in that book, Jami' al-Ulum wal-Hikam, they're available for the English reader to purchase and to understand. Another very important issue that I have to bring to the table is Al-Imam al-Nawawi. Al-Imam al-Nawawi right here, if we were to gather up everybody who's here, and we looked at the details of how you came here, the amount of petrol, the gas money we spend, they bought a ticket for myself and for Abdurrahim McCarthy to come from overseas, taking this place and renting this place. All of the money and all of the time and effort that we're doing right now, we're doing it because of the works of a great personality who left for himself a legacy. A legacy. Al-Imam al-Nawawi only lived for 45 years and then he died. He checked out, rahimahullahu ta'ala. 45 years. He never got married. He died after 45 years. In that 45-year period, he gave this ummah some books that have been accepted and they've been translated in almost every single language. Riyadh al-Salihin, 40 hadith, the Majmu' in the Shafi'i fiqh, Kitab al-Adhkar. This man was the man. So what's the point? Before getting into the explanation of my hadith, especially you young people here, brothers and sisters, we have to make some effort of not just being people who are carrying or we're being carried. We're just people who are heavy on the society, heavy on the community, heavy on our families. You have to do something about leaving for yourself a legacy. You're going to be the first one, inshallah, who's going to get a degree from the university. For an example, you're going to be the first one who's going to memorize the Quran from your family. You're going to be the first one who did something where you'll be able to look back 30, 40, 50 years from now and people will remember you with a positive eye. So coming here and just going over these hadith like this and we explain them, we come and we go, I think we're missing the point. Al-Imam al-Nawawi. You want to be a student of knowledge? Start off by reading this book. Learn the Quran, the tajweed of the Quran, memorizing the Quran, the tafsir of the Quran, and the ulum of the Quran. And coupled with that, start off with this book right here. So may Allah Azza wa Jal put it in the mawazeen of hasanat of the idara, the administration of Abu Hurairah. And may he allow Al-Imam al-Nawawi, who died over 759 years ago. He's in his grave right now. In his grave right now. But people are still talking about him and benefiting from him. And people are still finding the nur of al-Islam as a result of the efforts that he made by Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala's permission. And the Prophet told the truth when he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إِذَا مَاتَ الْإِنسَانُ انْقَطَعَ عَمَلُهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. If the person dies, all of his deeds are going to stop except from 3 things. And one of the things that he mentioned was beneficial knowledge. That is perpetual. Al-Imam al-Nawawi is dead. Didn't have any children to carry on his name. Dead. Done. Rahimahullah ta'ala. But despite that fact, the people here, 2013, they are still benefiting from what the man put together in that small time that he had on this earth. He put something forth. He left a footprint. He left his hands. The hadith of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and putting it where the people will be able to benefit. Concerning our hadith, as I think the screen showed, this hadith, the narrator of the hadith is a companion of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. His name is An-Nu'man ibn Bashir. An-Nu'man ibn Bashir. An-Nu'man, as well as his father, Bashir ibn Amr, they both were from the Ansar, and both of them were companions, radiyallahu anhuma wa ardahuma. Before going into anything else, I have to bring this to your point, to your attention. And Nu'man ibn Bashir was from the young companions during the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the Prophet died, and Nu'man ibn Bashir was only 8 years old. 8 years old. And in this hadith he said, Sami'tu Rasulallahi sallallahu alaihi wasallam yaqul. He said, I heard the Nabi say. So it goes to show another very important point before we even deal with the hadith, inshallah. And that point is, in the knowledge in al-Islam, ilm al-hadith, in the dunya, in our religion, young people, they have something to say. For those of you who are older, the mother, the father, those of you who are older, you have young children, your child has something to say. The culture of Africans, Pakistanis, culture of the Arabs, the culture of the Muslims, where the young person is just seen, but he or she doesn't have something to say about who they want to marry, what they want to do, what they like, what they don't. That culture goes against al-Islam. Everybody here, we have to respect the elders. The elders, they have a position in our religion. And the elders are better than the youngsters. They deserve our respect. We're going to say that without biting our tongue. The non-Muslim elder who's driving the bus, he deserves our respect. But despite that fact, the elders should understand they don't have a monopoly on the truth. Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, Abdullah ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, those companions were young, and they radiallahu anhum, they were prolific and they were acknowledged and recognized for their efforts. So this companion, and Nu'man ibn Bashir, when the Nabi died, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was only 8 years old. And that did not prevent the hadith from being accepted. He said later on, and he narrated the hadith, I heard the Prophet say, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No one said to him in knowledge after he left, no, we can't accept that because he was too young. There was a companion, his name is Amr ibn Usamah. He came with his tribe to the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They embraced Islam. The Prophet told them, you go back, and when it's time to leave the salah and let someone make the adhan. They went back and they looked around. They found that the boy was the one who memorized more Quran than anybody else. He was 6 years old, 6 years old, and he was leading the people in the salah. Now you come today, the boy is 6, the boy is 8, he knows what he's doing. The people in our masajid tell him, you can't pray in the first row, you have to get in the back. You have to get in the back. This hadith and that incident with that companion, radiallahu anhuma, it goes to show if the person is young, but they are mumayyiz, they know what they're doing, then they have the right to leave the salat, fard or the sunnah. They have the right to be in the first row. They have that right if they know what they're doing. If they don't know what they're doing, then it's a different issue. He went on to mention that the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, verily the halal is clear and verily the haram is clear, and between the two there is a gray area. So that's the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam dividing all of the issues in this dunya into 3 categories. The clear halal and the clear haram, and then that gray area which is the mushkila. We know that the halal and the haram is clear because the Quran or the Sunnah said it was clear. Because the fitrah of the people designate that it's clear. The Muslim who was a brand spanking Muslim, brand spanking new, came into the deen, he knows that this thing is haram. The Bedouin who lives all the way in the desert, he lives somewhere in the mountains, detached from the people in seclusion, he knows with as much ignorance that he has, he knows that this thing is haram or this thing is halal. Because Allah said it, or because the Prophet said it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and there are just too many examples to give for that. Allah mentioned in the Quran, al-yawm uhilla lakum at-tayyibat. Today, the pure things have been made halal for you. No one in his right mind is going to come and say, hey, orange juice is haram. Zamzam water is haram. No one's going to say that. A banana is haram because it's from the tayyibat. If you see anyone saying that, we have to question his intellect. Something is wrong. So there are many, many ahadith and ayat that are like that. Uhillat lakum bahimatul an'am. The cattle that you slaughter correctly are halal for you. The cattle meaning camels, cows, sheep. No one in his right mind is going to come and say this is haram, like the kuffar of Quraysh used to do. Kuffar of Quraysh, they used to say, okay, this camel is haram, but that camel is okay, and the women can't eat from this camel, and so forth and so on. Allah made all of these issues halal, so therefore there's no doubt about it. The haram is the same way. The haram is the same way. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala mentioned in the number of ayat, حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمْ أُمَّهَاتُكُمْ وَبَنَاتُكُمْ وَأَخَوَاتُكُمْ. It is made haram for you to marry your mother, to marry your daughter, to marry your sisters, to marry your maternal aunties, your paternal aunties. No one in his right mind is going to say he came into Islam yesterday, in this religion, came into Islam yesterday. He doesn't know Nun as Sakin. He doesn't know Nun as Sakin. He doesn't know the three aqsam of Tawheed. He doesn't know that stuff. He doesn't know the 6 arkan of Al-Iman. He's barely getting by on the 5 arkan of Al-Islam. He comes into the religion just yesterday. He is not going to say, hey, it's permissible for me. Is it? Can I marry my daughter? Because it goes against the fitr. It's not something that's going to happen. Plus, it was mentioned along with many of the other ayat in the hadith concerning this issue. But the real point of discussion here, as far as this hadith is concerned, is the gray area. Between the halal and the haram is the gray area. What the hadith called, the Prophet called it, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, baynahuma al-mushtabihat, la ya'lamuhunna kathirun min al-nas. Between the two, halal and haram, is the gray area. Not many people know about the gray area, he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is extremely important right now that we stop. The majority of the people don't know about the gray area because the majority of the people don't know Islam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us about this time that we're living in right now, and he said during this time, Al-Islam is going to fade away the way the thobe, the embroidery fades away. How the thobe fades away, your clothes fade away, the ink, the print, how you get a new thobe, a new jilbab. You wash it, you iron it, you wash it, you iron it, you keep doing that. It's going to become tattered, it's going to become torn. He said Islam is going to fade away like that, to the point where the people won't know what is salat, what is zakat, what is sawm, what is hajj. And the Quran is going to be taken up in one day. We're living in a time where the sunnah is looked at as being innovation, and the innovation is looked at as being the sunnah. That's what the majority of the people. The majority of the people from this ummah, they want to be phone-sped. They want to call up the Sheikh and say, hey Sheikh, what is the ruling of this and that? The Sheikh says halal or haram. The person says, okay, jazakallahu khair, and he hangs up the phone. He doesn't say, she doesn't say, where's the dalil? In a respectful way. I want to worship Allah knowing what I'm doing. I just don't want that. I don't want it packaged and tied up in a ribbon. I don't want to be spoon-fed. I want to know why I'm doing what I'm doing. Not like the kuffar of Quraysh, not like Ahlul Kitab. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهِ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. There are those people who worship Allah and they don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing or why they're doing it. And some of them, unfortunately, because of the me and myself and I society that we're living in, some of them don't know what they're doing and they're still strong and authoritative. They're still going to put their ID and their position in the arena. So the Nabi says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not many people know about the gray area. The few people who know about the gray area, they are the ulama. This hadith is one of the hadith from the sunnah that go and show us the position of the scholars in our religion. This is a hadith that directly, I don't say indirectly, directly tells us the ulama, they have a position in this religion. It doesn't mean that they are ma'soom, they're infallible and they don't make mistakes and they should be followed and obeyed unconditionally. Doesn't mean that. But Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, قُلْ هَلْ يَسْتَوِ الَّذِينَ يَعْلَمُونَ وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Are they equal, those who know and those who don't know? They're not equal. They're not equal. Especially when it comes, ikhwani, sisters, to issues concerning the blood, spilling blood. When it comes to issues of the people's property and their money. When it comes to the issues of the private parts, making them halal and haram, divorce and marriage and things like that. These big issues, they're like the gray area for most people because you don't know. And Allah Ta'ala's Rasul said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, most of the people don't know about it. The few people who know about it are the ulama. Allah mentioned in the Quran, وَلَوْ رَدُّوهُ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ وَإِلَى أُولِي الْأَمْرِ مِنْهُمْ لَعَلِمَهُ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَنبِطُونَهُ مِنْهُ وَلَوْلَا فَضْلُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ وَرَحْمَتُهُ لَاتَّبَعْتُمُ الشَّيْطَانَ إِلَّا قَلِيلًا. When these problems happen in our community, Egypt, Iraq, Syria, local fitna, when things happen in the community, Allah said, if the people would only refer the matter to the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and to those who have been endowed with knowledge, then they would have extracted for them, they would have taken out for them, and they would have explained to them the best interpretation of the particular thing. And if it wasn't for the rahmah of Allah upon you, most of you would have followed the shaitan except a few people. The few people are those ulama and those people who are with and behind the ulama of al-Islam. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam went on to mention that only a few people know the gray area. But he wanted to explain and to elucidate and elaborate even further so that there be no doubt, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He said, "Man ittaqa shubahat faqad istabra'a li dinihi wa irdihi." Anyone who avoids the gray area, he has protected his deen and his honor, his ird. Islam came to protect 5 things. 5 things for the human beings, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. At the top of the list, Islam came to protect the religion. Even the religion of non-Muslims. They call it the Dururiyatul Khamsa, the 5 things Islam came to protect. Allah Ta'ala mentioned, La ikraha fid deen. You can't force and compel a Christian lady who's your wife. You can't force her to become a Muslim. You can't force her. She's a wife to a Muslim man. She's drinking khamr, she's eating khanzir, she's doing Christmas and Easter. But he's allowed to marry her. He can't force her. She's allowed to do her religion, although she's married to the Muslim. Can't compel people, because Islam came to protect that. As for the Muslim, Islam doesn't allow us to listen to any and everybody. People who have crazy ideas. Islam tells you stay away from them situations because you may go astray. Don't do this, don't do that. And Islam came to protect your honor, your ird. Don't make zina, don't have illegitimate children, don't make ghiba, don't make namima, don't lie on people. That's his honor. You can't say that about someone without proofs and so forth and so on. So the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in this hadith, he put the deen before the ird. All of those 5 things, the religion. Islam came to protect your blood. Islam came to protect your ird. Islam came to protect your money. Islam came to protect your intellect. Out of all of them, the top of the list is the deen. So the Nabi said, whoever avoids the gray area, he protected his deen and he protected his ird. Those 3 things actually you can, if a person were killed because of those 3 things, because they're so high in Islam, he goes to Jannah. Man qutila duna dinihi fahuwa shaheed. Anyone who's killed protecting his deen, he's a shaheed. Anyone's killed protecting his ird, his honor, he's protecting the honor of his women, his honor, he's a shaheed. Anyone who's killed protecting his money, he goes to Jannah, he's a shaheed. So the point is, avoiding the gray area is a sign and an indication that the individual, he has some taqwa, he has some wara, he has some tahaffuz in terms of his existence. But the opposite holds true for the one who falls in it. He said in the hadith after that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَمَنْ وَقَعَ فِي الشُّبَهَاتِ وَقَعَ فِي الْحَرَامِ كَالرَّاعِي يَرْعَى حَوْلَ الْحِمَى يُوشِكُ أَنْ يَرْتَعَ فِيهِ. And the one who falls into the gray area, he has fallen into the haram. And his situation is like a shepherd who takes his flock of sheep or his camels. He has a flock of sheep, and he goes close to a sanctuary, a pasture that's not his. The Prophet said in the hadith, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every king has a sacred pasture. No one can trespass. Every king of this dunya, every president of this dunya, he has a place. Nobody else should go in that place. He gave that tremendous example. Like the guy who has his mawashi. He allows his flock to graze inside of the pasture of the king. He said in the hadith, Allah has a pasture as well. And the pasture of Allah is the things that are haram. So look at this intelligent example of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the ways that he used to teach is that he used to teach the people with what is called the darbul amthal, giving people examples. Alam tara kayfa daraba Allahu mathala kalimatan tayyibatin kashajaratin tayyiba. Do you not see how Allah has given a similitude, how Allah has given an example, a metaphor of the good word? The good word is like the good tree. Many examples. In the Quran, there are about 30. In the Sunnah, hadith wala haraj. There are many examples in the Sunnah. This is one of them. Look how he taught the people. During that time, the practice of the Arabs was, this is our tribe. We're one tribe in this place. We're one tribe. And I'm the boss of the tribe. I'm the leader. All of you people are my relatives, and this is our tribe. We all have animals, and this is our territory, and this is our land. It is allowed for our animals to eat here and eat there. Anyone who has his animals, you go over there, no problem. But next door to this room is the land of another tribe, and over there the land of another tribe, and over there land of another tribe. During that time, if one of our people went and allowed his animals to graze in the land of the other people, if 3, 4, 5, 15, 20 of your animals wound up in their pasture, they kept them. And you couldn't do anything about it. And if they did that on our side, we kept them. If he went to sleep, his shepherd went to sleep, and all of his animals came into this pasture, all of them belonged to us. So the Arabs, they used to be aware of that. Don't let my animals go over there because I'm going to lose all of my animals. So the person in the dunya, he doesn't want his animals to get taken away from him. He doesn't want it, so he's on top of it. So the Nabi gave this example. If that's how you were in the dunya, then what about your deen? The gray area is similar to that. The gray area is the maharam of Allah. Don't go close to that area, because if you go close to the area, you're going to fall into it. How in the world are you going to keep the sheep from going 10 feet into the other people's pasture? And that's the nature of the sin anyway. One of the things, ikhwani, about sins, as the scholars have illustrated based upon the dalil, is that every sin is holding on to the heel of another sin. I don't know anyone who apostated in al-Islam. I don't know anyone who apostated in al-Islam. I don't know anyone who left a Salafiyah being understanding the Quran and the Sunnah the way the companions understood it, radiyallahu anhum. It's not a group, it's not a hizb. I don't know anyone who left Islam except that they left Islam by first stop praying. They stopped after praying, they stopped hanging out with the people who were helping them. And then they started drinking. And then they started having a relationship. And then they got an abortion. And then. And that's the nature of sin. Because the shaitan is not just going to come to the person and say, drink khamr. He's going to say, go and hang out with the people who drink khamr. And then when you hang out with the people who drink khamr, little by little, it starts to have an impact upon your heart. And you find yourself doing things you normally wouldn't do with a tadarruj. That's the meaning of the hadith. Anyone who falls into the gray area is going to fall into the haram, sooner or later. That's the nature of the sin. They said, al-ma'asi baridul kufr. Disobeying Allah, it is the thing that goes before becoming a kafir. Falling into kufr. Person just doesn't wake up in the morning like that and says, I don't believe in Allah. Things led up to that thing, a culmination of events. So if we were to look at some of those ayat in the Quran, proves the point. Allah Ta'ala mentioned about a number of things. وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الزِّنَا إِنَّهُ كَانَ فَاحِشَةً وَسَاءَ السَّبِيلَ. Allah said, don't come close to zina. He didn't say don't commit zina. He said don't come close to zina. Don't start talking to somebody on the internet. Lower your gaze. Wear hijab. Don't have free mixing. Don't come close to the pasture. You won't fall into it. With the kuffar of Bani Israel, Allah Ta'ala mentioned about something that they used to do. ويقتلون الأنبياء بغير الحق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. He said that the kuffar of Bani Israel, they murdered the prophets unjustly. Why? Because of the sins that they used to do and because the trespasses that they used to make. ويقتلون الأنبياء بغير الحق ذلك بما عصوا وكانوا يعتدون. When they continued to fall into sins, left, right, and center every day, whatever the sins were, there were many that the Prophet told us about, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not doing al-amr bil ma'ruf and al-nahi al-munkar, asking excessive questions, being problematic. When the dalil from their prophet or their book came to them, they were opposing it and being problematic. When Allah Ta'ala told them, don't fish, don't work, don't do anything on the Saturday, they started playing games, making At-Thahabi. The religion said, don't do that. He would play some game to try to get around it. When they kept doing those things, it ultimately led them to murdering the prophets and the messengers who were sent to them. They just didn't wake up and murder the prophets and the messengers. It was because they were perpetual and consistent and persistent in coming close to the sanctuary of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And as a result of that, they fell into the big sin of murdering the prophet. The Prophet says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, inna ashad an-nas adawatan aw adhabin yawm al-qiyamati rajulun qatala nabiyyan aw qatalahu an-nabi. The person who's going to get the worst punishment, yawm al-qiyamah, the worst punishment, will be a man who killed a nabi or a nabi killed him. Even if the nabi killed him, he's going to get the worst punishment because obviously, evidently, he was opposing the truth. He was opposing the truth because the prophets and the messengers, while being prophets and messengers, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'een, they don't kill people unjustly. So avoid the gray area by falling into the gray area. It in and of itself is a sin and is not permissible. And then the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam completed the hadith by describing the heart and the connection of the heart to this whole process. He says sallallahu alaihi wa ala alihi wasallam, inna fil jasadi mudghatan idha salahat salah al jasadu kulluhu wa idha fasadat fasada al jasadu kulluhu ala wa hiya al qalbu. Verily inside of the person's body there is a morsel of flesh. If that morsel of flesh is pure, is salihah, is wholesome, the rest of the body is going to be like that. And if it is fasida and it's no good, the rest of the body is going to be the same way. And then he told them, verily that heart, that morsel of flesh is the heart. The meaning of that and the connection to the hadith is, if a person has a good heart, if he has some level of a taqwa, some consciousness of Allah Azza wa Jal, if she has that, then the person will be able to say, this is the great area, I'm going to avoid it. I don't know, is it halal? I don't know if it's haram. So therefore, I'm going to do the other hadith. Da' ma yuribuka ila ma la yuribuka. Leave what you doubt for what you don't doubt. It's halal, I know. It's haram, I know. But this is doubtful. The Nabi said, leave what you doubt for what you don't doubt. And both of these hadith, the one that I just mentioned is in 40 hadith, and the one that we're dealing with, both of these hadith constitute a principle in Islam, a principle in your life. That principle is called Sadd al-Dhari'ah. Close the door before the problem happens. Nip it in the bud before it happens. The problem is going to arise if you don't chop the weed before it happens. The Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told us about our children. When they hit the age of 7, order them to make salah. When they hit the age of 10, then separate them in the bed and you can chastise them for praying. If the girl is 10 and she has other sisters, don't let them all sleep together. If the boy is 10 and he has other brothers, don't let them all sleep together. If the girl and the boy, whatever, once they hit the age of 10, let them sleep by themselves. That hadith is chop the thing in the bud before it even starts. You get rid of the problem before it even starts, it won't develop, it won't present itself. or it's more difficult to present itself. So the one who has a good heart, he's going to have the ability to avoid that stuff. The one who doesn't have a good heart, he's not going to stay away from what is doubtful. And as a result of not staying away from what's doubtful, the natural process after that is he's going to find himself or herself doing those things which are evil. And that goes to show the importance of having a heart when it comes to this hadith that's going to be explained to you, I believe, about al-haya. The hadith said, if you feel no shame, then do as you like. If you feel no shame, then do what you like. That means a person who has a good heart, not a person who has a bad heart. A man, his name is Wabisa. He said a man came to the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the Prophet told the man before he even began to speak, he said, you came to ask me about righteousness and about sin. The man said, yes, Ya Rasulullah, I came to ask you about that. Jibril came and informed the Prophet before the man started talking, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He doesn't know the ilm al-ghayb, but in that case, Jibril told him, this man is about to ask you this question. What is al-birr and what is al-itham? The Prophet told the man, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, al-birru matma'annat ilayhi nafs watma'anna fi sadr watma'anna ilayhi as-sadr. Good deeds are those things that when you do them, you feel easy and relaxed about it. You made salat, you don't have any problem. You fed someone poor, you don't have any problem. You're walking in the street of Toronto, there's a non-Muslim who is a homeless man, and he looks terrible, and he smells terrible, but you gave him $5, $10. You're going to walk away. You're not going to say, oh, I gave it. You're going to say, I did a good thing. That's how you're going to feel. That is al-birr. He said, al-itham ma haka fi nafs wa taraddada fi sadr. The evil thing is the thing when you do it, it goes back and forth in your heart. You're not comfortable about it. You keep saying to yourself, I don't think I should have did that thing. That was a problem that I did. But who is that hadith talking about? It's talking about the same hadith right here. That's for the person who has a good heart. A good heart. The one who has a good heart, he's able to use that heart as a measurement. Did he do a correct thing or did he do a thing that was incorrect? As for the fajir, fasiq, the mujrim, he can bomb a group of people and put nerve gas on them, and he doesn't care about that. It doesn't bother him because his heart is jammed up. So this goes to show the correlation and the connection between the good heart and being able to avoid those issues. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned ayat upon ayat of the Quran, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. All of those ayat of the Quran that describe that type of heart, the heart that Allah Ta'ala has created to help the individual discern what's correct and what's incorrect. And then you have the heart of the enemy, this individual, as we mentioned, as the hadith said, and that's what it meant by the mention of the heart, that individual is going to fall into what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made haram. We're going to bring this session to a close, inshallah, keeping with the time. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost to benefit all of us with our presence here and to continue to carry this effort on our own in trying to get more deep understanding and meaning and being taught the hadith of Al-Imam An-Nawawi's book. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy and bless Al-Imam An-Nawawi and the rest of the ulama of Ahl al-Hadith and other than Ahl al-Hadith. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika wa ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.